The smoke of war still hung over the burnt plains of Ryden 4 like the ghost of a dying world. In the distance, the metallic silhouettes of the Terran Dominion's troop carriers glowed orange against the horizon. They were landing more soldiers, human soldiers, though none ever lasted long in the crimson dust valley below. 'Cause she was there. The unit had named her Spectre, a living weapon of steel and synaptic fire, grown in the dark research vaults of Vexen Industries and then loosed upon the front lines. Her mission: eliminate all remaining resistance, organic or otherwise. To the Dominion she was their creation. To the rebels she was a nightmare. But to herself she was nothing. Not yet. The battlefield. She moved with surgical precision, her blade a blur of plasma light that hissed through armor and bone alike. 5 Terran soldiers had surrounded her, exosuits gleaming with a faint blue of shield charge. They fired in a coordinated arc, synchronized by combat AI. But she was faster. A quick spin, a flash, and the first went down, his rifle still firing bursts into the dirt. A leap over the second, a twist mid-air, and she came down behind him, slicing through his power core. The third screamed her name, not her name but what the Dominion called her, as she decapitated him cleanly. By the time the fifth realized his rifle was empty, her blade was already through his chest. He looked up at her as he fell, and through his cracked visor, his eyes weren't angry, just human. She didn't know why that detail lingered. Then came a sound she hadn't heard before, a voice over the field speakers. "Aria!" The word cut through the gunfire, the explosions, the static of her own neural uplink. Her body froze mid-stride. That name, Aria, wasn't in any of her Dominion data files. It wasn't a code name. It wasn't anything she should have recognized. And yet her synthetic heart rate spiked. "Who said that?" she demanded, her voice a mix of steel and breath. The comms crackled. "You don't remember me, do you?" the voice said softly. It was human, deep, familiar, and laced with sadness. Her HUD flared with interference. Neural code scrambling. Unauthorized signal detected. She turned her head slowly toward the source. A lone figure stepped from the wreckage of a transport carrier, not in armor but in a tattered pilot's jacket. A scar cut across his temple, and his left arm was half mechanical, a crude field replacement. He didn't raise a weapon. "Aria," he said again. "It's me. Kale." To the awakening. The name slammed into her like a shockwave. Memory fragments, flashes of color, laughter, warmth, all things she'd never had or thought she hadn't. Lap. 2 figures in the dark. A young man adjusting her neural interface with trembling hands. And her voice, soft, human, whispering, "Kale, if this works, they'll set us free." Her knees buckled. Kale approached slowly, one hand raised in surrender. "They wiped you, didn't they? Erased everything. The Dominion made you forget." Her targeting sensors went haywire. Subroutines screamed for her to attack. He was unregistered, an intruder, a threat. "Stay back," she warned, her plasma blade trembling in her grip. "I don't know you." "Yes, you do," Kale said, eyes wet with emotion. "You were human once, Aria. You volunteered. You died on Mars Station Theta. I brought you back, but they took you from me before your consciousness stabilized." She shook her head violently. Sparks flew from her neural ports as corrupted memories tried to sync. "No, I am Spectre. I was made to fight." "No," Kale whispered. "You were made to live." The battlefield around them went eerily silent. Distant explosions faded into the wind. For the first time since her creation, she hesitated. Breathe the choice. Command signals flooded her comms. Dominion HQ demanding her to execute the intruder. Their digital voices were sharp, metallic, merciless. Unit Spectre 09. Terminate unauthorized presence. Immediate compliance required. Her optic lenses flickered between Kale and the horizon. Her orders pulsed red in her vision like a heartbeat. Kale didn't flinch. You think they'll ever stop using you? You think you're the first weapon they built to do their dirty work? I've seen the next batch, Arya. Worse than you can imagine. She wanted to shut him out. To drown in the familiar logic of obedience. But the word Arya echoed again, a name that felt right in her chest. The Dominion's command tone intensified. Execute. 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 Arya! Kale shouted. You have to fight it. And she did. Her systems screamed in protest. Code scrambled. Neural pathways fried. But something deep inside, something human, clawed its way up through the static. With a cry that was more pain than rage, she drove her plasma blade into the ground. Energy flared outward in a shockwave, burning away the command feed. The Dominion uplink went dark. Kale ran to her as she collapsed to her knees, trembling. You're free, he said softly. She looked up at him, eyes glowing faintly blue, no longer the cold light of a machine, but the uncertain shimmer of a reborn soul. Free, she repeated, as if testing the word for the first time. For the reckoning. They didn't have long. Dominion sensors would have traced the signal loss. Reinforcements would arrive within minutes. Kale helped her to her feet. We have to go. There's a shuttle hidden in the ridge. She nodded weakly, voice low. I can't go back. They'll hunt me forever. Then we make sure they can't, Kale said. You were their best weapon. Now you'll be their greatest threat. They ran across the wasteland, the air thick with heat and dust. Above them, Dominion drones streaked through the smoke, scanning for targets. Arya raised her arm. A flicker of light burst from her palm, scrambling the drone's optics. Kale looked back at her in awe. Still got it, he murmured. But as they reached the ridge, a blinding beam struck the ground in front of them. A Dominion dropship hovered above, guns trained on their position. Through the external comms came a cold, familiar voice. Commander Voss, the architect of the Spectre program. Spectre 09, return to base immediately. You are compromised. Obedience is mandatory. Arya lifted her gaze to the ship. You took my name, she said quietly. You took my life. Your life was ours to begin with, Voss replied. Her eyes narrowed. Not anymore. She reached into her chest plate and pulled free the Dominion control chip, the core of her obedience system, and crushed it in her fist. Energy flared white-hot around her as her systems overloaded. Kale shouted, Arya, stop. You'll burn out. She turned to him, smiling faintly. If I don't, they'll never stop. You said I was human once. Maybe this is what that means. The last thing he saw was her charging the plasma core, unleashing a pulse of light that ripped the sky open. The Dominion ship exploded in midair, scattering metal across the valley. Then silence. The aftermath. Hours later, Kale woke beneath the wreckage, smoke rising around him. The ridge was scorched black. There was no sign of Arya, only a single shard of her plasma blade, still glowing faintly in the dust. He picked it up, staring at the horizon where dawn began to break. She did it, he whispered. You did it, Arya. Somewhere beyond the shattered clouds, Dominion signals flickered weakly, a dying empire. And as the sun rose over Ryden 4, Kale walked into the wasteland, carrying the last piece of the woman who had once been a weapon, and who had died a human being once more.